Over the past 2 months, I have spent quite a lot of time in Mario Kart World, but not enough, and having spent almost 2 full real-world days in it, I can confirm it's a pretty fun game, which is great considering that this is likely going to be our main Mario Kart game for the foreseeable future. But despite my praises, I'll be the first to admit that this game isn't perfect, and given that the previous entry was pretty much the perfect Mario Kart game, it does make World's flaws stand out a bit more than usual. Now, is it flawed to the point of being unplayable? No, but this game does make a lot of dumb mistakes that are not only really easy to fix, but if fixed, would turn this game from good to great. And considering that Nintendo just fixed arguably this game's biggest issue, there might actually be a shot that some of these smaller issues get fixed as well. So in the rare chance that someone important is listening, here are 5 improvements that I would make to Mario Kart World. Although Nintendo recently fixed the issues with standard online races, they didn't really address the heart of the issue, as most of the issues pertaining to this game's races can all be linked back to this game's Grand Prix. For those unaware, instead of having the standard 3-lap setup that pretty much every Mario Kart game has had, Mario Kart World adds in the addition of having to drive to your next race as well, which on paper actually sounds like a pretty cool idea, but is kind of botched in its execution. See, the way most people, including myself, interpreted this was that for each race you would have to drive to the next track and then race around that track for 3 laps. That is not the case. Instead, the game has you spending most of your time on the drive to the race rather than the actual race itself, as no matter how many laps you may have for a given race, only the last lap is dedicated to the actual track you selected, and half the time it doesn't even feel like a full lap. But what's crazy is that despite this game's major focus clearly being on these in-between sections, this game actually offers a pretty stellar selection of tracks, especially new ones, a fact that you probably wouldn't know playing the game normally, which makes this issue that much more frustrating, as it ends up really devaluing most of the tracks here. Now don't get me wrong, I do enjoy these in-between sections probably a lot more than most, but not more than the fucking races. No matter how hard they may try, these things will never be seen as anything more than a glorified gimmick, and although these sections are very much baked into the overall gameplay of this game, there is thankfully a very simple solution. More gameplay. What do I mean? Literally just add more gameplay into the standard Grand Prix. Instead of having the system we have now where you drive to the next race and then maybe go around the track once, this new system would have you drive to the next race and then go around that track for 3 laps. It may be a really simple addition to ask for, but it is one of those things that, if added, would go a really long way. I'm sure I'm not the only one to finish a race in this game's Grand Prix and just feel kind of underwhelmed, even if it is a really good track. It also doesn't help that the first race in every Grand Prix is a standard 3-lap race. Like, why is Mario Bros. Circuit 3 laps and not, Whistletop Summit? It would also help people to become way more familiar with each of these courses, because a lot of these new tracks do have potential to become new fan favorites, with them only being held back by this weird restriction. Also, I doubt anyone would complain about getting more gameplay. One of Mario Kart World's coolest new additions has to be the plethora of character costumes scattered all across the map. These things are pretty cool, as not only does it give you way more customization options, but it also gives you a legitimate incentive to play as different characters. But for as great as this feature is, there is one major flaw. How the fuck am I supposed to manage this? This is an issue that's been known for quite a while, as it was present all the way back in the demo builds of this game, and despite everyone collectively saying please put submenus in the final build, we're still left with this monstrosity of a character select screen. Now, there is technically an option to organize all these characters in a way that makes navigating them easier, which I assume most people will probably say they aren't organized already, to which I will respond with, kill me! And although this does somewhat help with character navigation, it doesn't really address the main issue people have with it, which if you forgot is the 13 fucking screens worth of characters, half of which are literally just alternate skins. Just add in submenus. It's not that hard. But while we are on the topic of character skins, we could definitely use some more, especially for characters who kind of got looked over in the base game. Like, how the fuck do the baby characters get more costumes than these two? I know, we'll probably get some more to tie in with Bonanza at some point, hopefully, but still, these two should have had more than just one alt each at launch. But more than just alternate skins, I also think this game should bring back alternate colors as well. Not many people have talked about it, but for characters like Yoshi and Shy Guy, they kind of got a downgrade going into World, losing the ability to have different colors. Okay, technically Yoshi does have alternate colors, but they are locked behind specific costumes. You can't just go out as Orange Yoshi without looking like a complete fool. I don't know, I've always found it very cool to just have normal color alts for characters that canonically have them. If they don't bring them back for Yoshi and Shy Guy, I get it, they do have actual costumes in the game, but I do think it's something they should at least consider for some of the enemy characters who don't have dedicated costumes. As although it is a relatively small addition, to be able to have canonical variants of Cheep Cheep, Hammer Bro, Pokey, Swoop Bat, Pianta, and Bitty Buds would go a very long way for many longtime fans. If you've watched any Mario Kart content within the last decade, then you have absolutely witnessed this feature at work. If you don't know, Mario Kart TV was a feature added into Mario Kart 8 that allowed you to record, edit, and share dynamic highlight reels of races in the game. Its impact on overall gameplay is pretty much non-existent, but for people like me who like to make videos on this stuff, it became a pretty neat tool to use, as it made gameplay footage much more interesting to watch. And if you couldn't tell by the footage used so far in this video, this feature does make a return in World. There is one catch though. It fucking sucks. It's actually kind of amazing how badly they fucked this up, to the point that it almost makes you ask why they even brought it back in the first place, as the only place it shows up is after singular races or rallies in either single player or local co-op in a blink and you'll miss it moment. That's it. No special selection on the main menu, no way to save race recordings for later, and no real option to edit the footage you have. The thing that probably kills me the most is not being able to have multiple recent races saved at a time. Back in the Mario Kart 8 days, the game would automatically save up to 12 of your most recent races, and let me tell you, during the Booster Course Pass days, that made gameplay recording very, very efficient, as I could go through a complete Grand Prix and then go back and record special versions of each individual race. But now in Mario Kart World, it all has to be done right there in the moment, as once you go on to the next race, that special footage is now gone forever. So now I gotta race one race, sit there and have to record the special footage of that race, then go to the next race and do the whole thing 4 times in a row. Just kind of messes up the whole flow of recording things. And considering that the basics of this feature is already in the game, all they need to do is bring back the exact same system they had in Mario Kart 8. Give Mario Kart TV a small little section on the menu and just save a few recent races at a time. It may not seem like much, but its inclusion would definitely go a long way. I think enough time has passed where I can confidently say that Mario Kart World's open world is a very worthwhile addition. I know a lot of us weren't 100% sold on the whole open world gimmick, but after spending quite a bit of time in it, I'm really glad that it's here, as it's something that the series has kind of been building towards for quite a while. There's just so much to do in this open world, thanks in part to the hundreds of collectibles that it offers. Unfortunately though, there's no real way to track them, and given that there's a total of 200 Peach medallions and 394 P-switches, that presents a bit of a problem, as there really is no way to know which ones you do and don't have unless you physically visit them in the game, which makes 100%ing these things an absolute nightmare to do. Add in a map tracker. It's just one of those things that I'm surprised wasn't in the game to start with, because it's like the main thing to do in free roam. I mean, fuck, they didn't even give us totals. I get wanting to keep the map clean, which is what I assume the reason for this is, but I think most people will agree that having a cluttered map with all of the things you currently have is much better than, hey, good luck. It would also be really helpful for revisiting specific missions, because there are some pretty neat missions out there, specifically the secret SNES tracks. It would be nice to be able to actually pinpoint where those are rather than just making an educated guess. And given that the open world aspect of this game is one of its major selling points, this is something that should be added way sooner rather than later. Okay, this one's not really an issue per se, but it is something that I think they should consider with updates and DLC going forward. Knockout Tour is hands down this game's best mode, as it perfectly incorporates all of Mario Kart World's new additions and mechanics while also being extremely fun and addictive to play. And considering all the little issues this game has, it really is surprising how flawless this mode is. Now, I don't mean to kill the mood or anything, but there is one little issue that I have with this mode. There isn't enough. I think it's a testament to how good this game is that my only complaint is that there aren't enough of them. Currently, there are 8 total rallies available in the game, which is not a bad number, but you could easily bang all of these out in a single afternoon. And given that these tours do seem kind of random in their course selections, I don't think it's too much to ask for more of them down the road. Hell, give us an option to make our own. If they do end up adding more rallies in the future, my only requests are to have at least one of them end at Rainbow Road. That just seemed like an odd thing for them to leave out in the base game, especially in the Heart Rally, and also one that goes through every course in the game, kind of like Double Dash's All Cup Tour. Just seems like that would fit perfectly in an open world Mario Kart. And those are 5 improvements that I would make to Mario Kart World. I wanted to make this as reasonable as possible, only really fixing and adding things that are already in the base game. And I do mean it when I say that this game is really, really fun. It just makes a lot of weird decisions that ultimately lead to professional Nintendo haters ripping it to shreds. It's a good game, but it could be a lot better. And with Nintendo recently fixing some of the more prominent issues with this game, there is a smidgen of hope that some of these issues may at some point be fixed as well. But for now, that is all for me. I know I haven't been uploading nearly as much as either of us would like, but I am trying my hardest to change that soon. Oh, and don't you worry, I will talk about the monkey.